What's good, everybody? Welcome to Silent Podcast, the place of everything but silent. I'm your host, Isaiah, and we're back with the Big Brother 25 podcast to talk about this crazy week. I'm here with my co-host, as usual, Josie. Josie, what's going on?
I feel like the week is just kind of resetting to what it was last week when we talked on Friday. I have some opinions and thoughts that I'm excited to talk about and discuss, especially with our guests. So, disappointing week potentially, but I'm always excited to talk about it.
All right, and we have special guests. Second time on the Silent Podcast. I have to have him back. Peridiam, what's going on, man?
Isaiah, I was going to let you know, I think you might have made a huge mistake bringing me on this podcast because little did you know, buddy, all those AmeriCorey Stan accounts out there, I'm the hive minds.
God,
I'm the leader of them. And I've been seeing you talking trash. So guess what, buddy? You brought me in to the inner core. It's about to get ugly. We got nothing else to do. We got the whole night ahead of us. Let's just duke it out.
This is going to be a problem. But all right, we got the head leader of the AmeriCorey Stan base on ex AmeriCorey ground, so it's going to be interesting here. But here to talk about everything that happened last week on top of everything that happened today. So before we even get started, if you haven't already, and if you're interested in supporting us any further, please check out our Patreon and everything fun with that. The Discord is also linked in the description down below. We've been having some fun times watching Traders Canada and all that fun stuff. So make sure you hop in there and come hang out. But anyway, we're going to talk about Big Brother. Peridiam, I haven't asked you at all this season. So how are you feeling about the status quo of BB25 so far?
I'm a little mixed, to be fair. I actually sat down knowing I was on this podcast and I was like, I haven't actually asked myself too much how I feel about it. I've just been experiencing the season. And then usually at the end of it, I sit down and I'm like, okay, let's like recap. And I'll make a video about it. We still have like 3 weeks, which is a lot of time to, a lot can happen. I certainly was like, how did I feel this year, around this time last year for BB24? Okay, there's stuff that can happen between now and then. But I did write down the pros and cons. I think I got a little more cons than I do pros.
Okay.
But I'm not 100% out on this season. It's currently in the middle of if I had to rank all the seasons, I'd say it's somewhere in the middle. I think there's some good, some bad, some in between. So that's currently where I'm at as a broad picture.
A quick recap. What's the pros and the cons? I want to hear these.
A quick recap. Oh, I have a lot. I have a lot of
bullets. There's a lot of for both.
For pros, I went chronologically, but like first thing, like Suri is on my live feeds. Like Suri is on my live feeds. Yeah. Also, day 80, Suri is still on my live feeds. Like, as a huge fan of Survivor, I've always wanted a Survivor player on Big Brother. It's never really happened. To get Suri there. And she is, in my opinion, the greatest player to never win Survivor. And she's played like all the eras of the show, and her game is translated so well for so long. And I've talked about her like for 6 years. To have her on and to feel like it feels very validating to see her play, even when she's not in power. And that's kind of been what I like about this season, is watching her game go from on top to on bottom to in the middle. And she's been able to finesse her way into a good spot at every point. I'm kind of like nervous for this end game a little bit right now. So like a lot of it is Suri. Like every bullet is like Suri. So it's like there's a lot of Suri pros. The explosion in day 43, the middle of the season, where it kind of climaxed with the drama of all these alliances sort of coalesce, just like falling apart in the middle, was a kind of an interesting like volcano of eruption. I kind of wish it turned into something a little better in the outcome of that, though. I don't think the cast is half bad. I think it's a pretty good cast. I was happy to see the pressure cooker come back. So those are a couple of them, like, pressure cooker. That was this year. That happened a few months ago. Cons, I got a lot of cons, dude. Like, oh boy. I took some notes from the day that Cameron won the pressure cooker to the day Bowie Jane won HOH was 42 days of Cameron and Jared either being HOH or all the attention is on them as zombies. 42
fair.
days out of 80 days total is ridiculous to have
Very.
just 2 people be at the top calling, like not calling the shots, but like in power. Like that,
Mhm.
if you took that and you put that on almost any other season, I would be like lamenting that season. So it's a testament that I'm not doing it so hard, but that's like not a great thing to consider. And there's some other stuff, like some of the twists I don't think are working too well. Like, why are we invalidating the double eviction that was in the middle with the zombie week? That really put a lot of momentum. It took it out for me. I thought the invisible HOH thing was kind of fell flat, and I think Jag being able to play back to back isn't needed. And knowing that, like, I think Suri would have won and would have been HOH this week, it's like, okay, maybe we'll get a decent outcome with Jag as HOH, maybe, but like what we could have got would have been so much better. And I feel like I'm getting a lot of that this year, like what we could have had instead of what we got. And I don't like that, you know? So that's like another just, yeah, there's a lot of that.
Okay. And you know what? That's a perfect place to start this whole segment. So you know what? Josie, I'm gonna ask you. You know, I have my opinions. Obviously, Peridiam has his opinions. This double HOH mess. What the hell's going on here? What were they thinking? Like, I remember when Claire had something similar. Like, it was perfect that, like, all right, you gotta throw HOH if you take this, you know, and she did it. But they're letting Jag like do it back to back, and you know, I wouldn't mind if it was like a secret. But everybody at this point knew that he was the HOH. What are they doing, Josie? What's going on here?
You see, I think this twist amongst the zombie twist has really broken what the concept of Big Brother is. I feel like if you ask me straight up, how do you explain to someone who's never watched Big Brother what Big Brother is? You say there's an HOH, they put 2 people on the block, and then one of them goes home. Obviously, there's a POV. And then the next week, the HOH can't play. So there's this conversation about social contracts and all these things, a part of the show. Then you take something like the double HOH and then you completely remove the fact that someone who got evicted just gets to come back in the game, which was like really strange, which took one concept of the game already from like this very simple base explanation out of it. And then you give invisible HOH and then you let the HOH who was last week's HOH play again. It's like, are we even playing Big Brother? Is this still Big Brother? Like, I understand the whole concept of expect the unexpected. And I think that adds to the charm of the game, or else it could be a little redundant or boring, even though season 10 kind of shows that it's not necessarily boring if you have a good cast. I think there's many factors that play into it. And I just feel like this season, like all of the good factors that you enjoy just slowly get yanked one by one. And I think this one was like the straw that broke the camel's back. Like, I'm so over it. I think it's ridiculous. It's invisible HOH. We knew who HOH was literally the day of. Like, I'm pretty sure Corey and America find out the next morning. So Suri had a good hunch at that point. She spoke to Felicia about it. Everyone knew. Like, no one was surprised. There was no invisible HOH. And the fact that you let him play again, while we've seen Jack win so many times back to back, like, it's ridiculous and it's frustrating. I don't feel like I'm watching Big Brother. I feel like I'm watching the challenge. And that's not what I've subscribed for. At least the challenge gives me better production with the comps. So I was just, this whole week and this week, it's very disappointing to me. I still see that there is potential, but the way the comps have been structured this week lets me not like hope for the best.
You know, it feels like my energy for this season keeps getting like sucked out, and it's not because of the players. Actually, it's like you know, production. I gave you guys a shot. You know, like you messed up already when you let Jag come back in the game. That was strike one. You know, I didn't like that. That was a problem. Strike two, zombie week, horrible twist. So I wasn't with that. But then strike three, letting Jag compete a second time. I'm going to start doing this thing where I'm like L of the week for Big Brother. And this is definitely the L of the week. So you're getting a whammy sound effect production. I'm not with that. L. Don't do this again. I'm tired of like these twists that's changing the rules of the game. And it's like, just, I think the nail in the coffin is that Suri could have been HOH this week. You know, I know I'm jumping ahead, but that pissed me the hell off. Like, I've been waiting so long, and to hear that she came in second, I was just like, I'm dead inside. But you know, we could harp on this forever, but there's nothing new. Ellen production, like usual. But anyway, so let's talk about.
I was gonna say Cerie Fields would have won her first individual comp, I think, ever across all of Survivor. And it was because of technicality that breaks the format of Big Brother that she's denied that we're denied that. And this would have been such a good week to see Jag, Matt, or Bowie get evicted going into the final 6 with a double eviction. Like, that is so painful to think about what we could get. And then I'm watching the feeds right now and I'm like, I just don't care. I don't care about what's going on. And Blue is, I mean, we'll talk about all this, I guess. But I don't know. I guess spoilers. Anyway, it's just unfortunate. It's just so, this kind of stuff is just it hurts.
It's really terrible. It feels like a stab in the back. It's tough, man. But you know what? I always think like maybe production is going to learn their lesson each year, and they never do. Like, it gets worse over and over, and I'm just like, you know what, whatever. But anyway, so moral of the story from last week. Last week. Basically, our HOH was Jag, and Jag originally put up, I believe it was Felicia in Blue, and he was the invisible HOH. We talked about this for a while in the last podcast, but basically, he made a mistake by telling everybody that he was invisible HOH. Obviously, terrible move. We'll get into Jag in a second, but ultimately both vetoes were won, and they were used for a grandiose blindside. And this is what we didn't see coming, Josie. So obviously, huge change. Like, literally right when we got off the podcast, you did. Sorry, you heard. Yeah. But right, literally when we got off the podcast, like maybe 30 minutes after, we're getting worried that like, yo, they're going to use the veto, and I'm like, wow, that's crazy. Like, you know, the timing. And we have, in my opinion, like the first big blindside of the season, if any, where like, you know, completely thrown on a block, not expecting it. The TV moment was crazy. Like, America's cussing people out. Jag and Matt are being babies about it. How do you guys feel about all that? Like, was this a good move? Was this a bad move? Do we even care? Was this it? You know, like, how do we feel about it, guys?
I don't think it was a bad move, given like Corey and America could have, I guess. Well, knowing that Jag could play again, I mean, he probably wins this again, right? So it probably wouldn't have mattered in the long run. But I do think like Corey and America pose a threat. They're like an unbreakable duo. They're not truly with you, and he kind of figured that out. So like, I do give him some props. I think he did handle the way he like got to the right outcome, but he took all the wrong roads to get to it, I feel like. So I don't give him a ton of props, even though he sort of fell backwards into what I think was a good eviction. And I'm not a Maricory stan, by the way. I don't actually care about them at all. I was totally fine with losing it. I'm like, hey, maybe this will make like America like an untapped potential. I don't know. I'm not really a big showmance kind of guy. But yeah, you know, anyway, you can take over, Josie. How you feel?
I mean, here's the thing. I think Jag is a horrible player, point blank, period. I think there's been a lot of conversation, at least from my side of Twitter, where I've seen people been like, he's the front runner. He deserves to win. I think Jag just does not deserve to win. The moves that he does, when he executes them, they're done so poorly. I think he has horrible jury management. I just feel like this week is a perfect example of mishaps after mishaps after mishaps. So they made a deal, Corey, America, Jag, and Matt, to tell each other if they would have won. Obviously, Corey and America aren't entitled to know that information, but the fact that Jag chose to wait 12 hours after disclosing it, I feel like he should have just picked one. You tell them right away or you don't. And then like, that's something so small, but if I was in their position, that would put a seed of doubt in my alliance with Jag. And I do think that was a thing that was discussed. I think I saw some exit interviews from Corey where he talked about being paranoid all week. I think the fact that Jag waited 12 hours definitely played a part of it. I wish they were maybe proactive, but that's more on Corey in America than it is Jag. I think, you know, disclosing how he was the invisible HOH because he had no other choice after lying to Blue. He's just lucky that Blue's his ally and not any other person. No offense to her, but hello. It's just like everything he did this week was horrible. And it was a great outcome, as you mentioned, but I just feel like I don't think that move should be credited to him. And I feel like I can already hear Cameron in the jury house talking about how that was a great move this season and how he should win. And I can't. I just don't want to see it.
You know, I actually have been seeing some stuff on Twitter like you, where a lot of people are like, when are people finally going to give Jag like the credit? He's running the game. Look, he's doing fine. Like, I think him and Matt, like, honestly, their strategy isn't too bad. Like, I'm not a fan of it, but like, it's solid. Like, take out everyone who can possibly win a competition and then comp your way to the end. And like, you know, you could say it's risky, but I mean, if you're looking at the track record, like, Jag's winning everything. So I completely get it. And right now, statistically, it's very possible that they could pull this off. But it's a very dangerous plan in general. And, you know, I personally don't give Jag too much credit because originally, had certain information gotten to him, he was still prepared to like work with America and Corey. Like Matt has been saying to him, let's take a shot at AmeriCorps. Let's take a shot at AmeriCorps. And he's constantly putting it off and saying, no, not yet, not yet, not yet. I truly feel like he would have probably tried to take this to 5 if like he had the option to. I know that they've said things and I know that they have their plans, but Jag actions do not correlate with the words that he's been speaking this season. So I don't believe it personally too much. But ultimately he did it. You know, he put the America and Corey up. I think there was a better way to do it. Maybe like let them know beforehand. I know that's boring. I know that we love fun TV. I'm perfectly happy the way that he did do it. But like in the game, like, I don't know if just like flat out putting them on the block is the best way. Cause I think America's going to be pissed, right? Like, she's going to be pissed no matter what, but like take like the softer like road of resilience or opposition. There you go. Take like the softer blow. Like, she's going to be pissed off. Like, all right, at least you're not like blindsiding me. Like, now America just cried in front of national television and like acted a fool, and now she's going to resent him for like the rest of the season. I don't see America ever voting Jag, especially if it's like a Jag or Matt final too. That's just me. But I don't know.
I mean,
maybe.
I feel like him putting up America and Corey in the beginning would have made great television if he would have kept his HOH a secret, not to like backtrack again. But like the whole point is to cause paranoia. Anytime we've seen an invisible HOH play through, a lot of the Big Brother Canada references are coming in my mind, but there's just constant paranoia. Who do you trust? Who do you think will have your back? Who, like, I think of like a spicy VHOH. That was good television. No one really knew if it was her or not. I think at the end people caught on, but regardless, that to me makes the show entertaining. So imagine if he would have put up Corey in America. It's like, it could have been Tari, it could have been Felicia. Obviously the comp was very telling, whatever, but it could have been Tari, it could have been Felicia, it could have been Blue, it could have been a series of people had it not been BB comments and had Jack not said anything. So I think that would have been entertaining in itself. And I think it would have been the smarter path to do rather than what he just did, which was like horrible jury management all over the place, mistrust, except for Bowie Jane. But even Bowie Jane was another case this week.
I mean, I think it's a little bit tricky given it was BB Comics, because that kind of does tell you, like, you can kind of figure out who's probably going to win that. It's not a comp where like anyone's going to win it. So that does sort of whittle it down a little bit. And as we saw, like, yeah, Jag was ahead of people by a decent margin. But it is really like Jag's inability to like handle confrontation, his inability to like reconcile with like negative emotions. He's good at just chilling and like vibing and being a bro and just being like, hey, let's just all hang out and have a good like small talk. But when it comes to like actually talking about the hard stuff, he's really bad at it. And especially when it's to somebody that he has personally burned, consistently he is terrible. It's awful, jury. It's like do the opposite of what this guy does. And like Matt's not terribly better. He just hasn't been in power as much, so he hasn't had to do that as much. But he just does the puppy eyes and the, you know, like that image of them sitting in the comic room with their heads down. Like that's their jury management in a frame. But if they're in the final two, who cares? Like that's all that they need. And at the rate that they're going, they can just win every comp. If you refer back to the first half of this season, when Jag is not in power or Matt to some extent, like they're not that great players. they've only been able to win all these comps. Cameron comes in, but wins HOH, and that sort of kicks off the second half of the season. But arguably, Cameron's a worse player than Jag and Matt. So the bar isn't exactly very high for Jag and Matt to control Cameron, because the dude didn't have anywhere to go anyway. So he goes to them, and then Bowie Jane wins. But I would argue Bowie Jane's also a worse player than Jag and Matt. I think that maybe that's a hot take. I don't know, but I don't think she's very good. And I think she's going to be a GOAT if she continues along this path, which she is very much willing to go down. She's
we're talking Bowie Jane, right?
We're talking Bowie Jane.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Bowie Jane is, yeah, she's the GOAT of this trio who will likely lose to both of them. And she's more than willing to go with that. And she wins HOH on a fluke. And it's like they kind of fall backwards into positions of power. Jag gets to play a second HOH in a row. So I'm like, yeah, they're not that good at this game. Their jury management, their ability to reconcile with people they're throwing out the door. I mean, putting up Corey in America is a little dicey right off the bat, only because there are 2 vetoes. They're going to have a fire under their butt. You don't really know exactly what you're getting yourself into, what this other veto is, how it's even going to play. I know they sort of had this in BB14 where like Ian and Jen won the veto. I was like, how are they going to play it? Like, are they going to do it the same way? Like they get to go one after the other. So on one hand, I'm like, look, if you're the HOH and you really just want to garner trust and play a boring game, like what would Derek do? Just tell all your allies, do the simple move. But then Jag's like, I'm going to completely reverse course on the other side of the house. And it made for good TV because I don't think they're very good players. But it did kind of feel like it was probably the right move at the end of the week. So it's like a weird situation where you don't normally have 2 vetoes in play. You don't know exactly how this is going to work. The invisible HOH thing, I'm like, it's a little negligible for me at the end of the day. Like, yeah, you're invisible. You're obviously going to tell like your closest allies. He did. I do think he got carried away, especially given he just straight up nominates them both like 2 days later. But I don't know. It doesn't really, for me, doesn't make me think a little less of Jag. I always kind of just didn't think he was a great player. Yeah. It just reconfirms like Jag in power, even on a wonky week, is still like Jag in power.
Absolutely.
Like it is what it is. Yeah. Now we'll get to see him do it on a normal week. How many people will he burn? How many tears will be shed out of Bowie Jane? We'll find out.
So even with that, obviously the blind side happens, and we'll talk about everyone individually after we finish recapping them. But Corey's out of here. Quick session for Corey. Do we have any final thoughts for Corey's game, Josie?
I am disappointed. I think I talked about it last week. Not to say that I had super high hopes, but it's like when you see someone who loves the game and who appreciates the game, like similarly to you, you kind of automatically want them to do well. Also, the Survivor ties. I love Survivor. So it just felt like it could be fun potential, especially with Jared in the house and Suri in the house. So I was excited. I didn't expect him to just, pull an Izzy and just rock with her because, she's Suri. But I do think I was slightly disappointed because he had such good reads in the beginning of the game. Like he actually gagged me. Like I was like, what? Like what the things he's saying is so spot on. And I think his issue is, again, I think he wanted to play from the bottom. And then he pulls the move on kind of like a coup d'etat, but not literally a coup d'etat. Shout out to Jeff. But he does this power move where he ends up being at the top of the positioning and he doesn't know how to play from that spot. And I don't think he was prepared to play from that spot. So that's one thing that disappointed me in that sense. I also think him getting in a showmance with America, I mentioned it previously. I understand wanting to play an individual game, but when you're in a showmance, you automatically become one player, which is unfortunate, but that's just how it is. It's always been that way. And the issue with Corey in America, I felt like they were playing 2 individual games, impacting each other and then informing each other, but it was a little too late. And we saw it exactly with Blue this week. So I just feel like I was a little disappointed that he kind of lost that sense of agency, but like he got to live his dream. He's satisfied with the way he played. So like props to that. I think there were moves that were unnecessary for his game that led to his eviction. I don't think he had great management because every time someone left, they felt some type of way towards him. Yeah. So I was just overall disappointed, but I'm glad that he got to like fulfill his dream, but it wasn't giving what I thought he was going to give this season.
Are they this? I don't know if this is a good comparison. Are they like a reduced dramatic Kyle and Alyssa from last year?
Yeah, I've seen the comparisons to Kyle and Alyssa, and I've seen the comparisons to
like Josie. When you said they're like two individuals playing separate games together, I'm like, yeah, that was kind of like last year with those two.
Absolutely. Yeah. I said it in my draft. I was like, America's giving me Alyssa, like from the vibe straight up. And I was like, I think America's going to get into a showmance. But I had compared Luke to Kyle, which is still kind of accurate. But I think overall, I think America's game was very much giving Alyssa, and I think it still is. So I don't think she's gonna last that long either.
Yeah, we're gonna have to see. I listen. I know a lot of people think I hate American core, and I really don't. I'm not a fan of their. Listen, I'm not a fan of their stands. Listen. It's up with the stands, okay? Like I'm their public enemy number one. But I don't have a problem with America and Corey. I just wanted them to be separated because I really do feel like both of them had potential, and if not as players, as characters. And I think Corey, specifically when he got into his little fights and tussles and stuff, like I was like, okay, like this guy's like, he has a villainous character, when an anti-hero. There you go. He's like more of an anti-hero. America though, we're finally getting the America I want, the Savage. And, I've been waiting for that. And I'm happy she stayed. I might become an American stan. You never know, man. Like, get her off for a little bit because, that was hilarious to me when she was like, literally fuck off. Like, I was like, oh, okay. Like, listen.
Yeah, especially to Jag, the guy who, like, can't handle that.
Oh my god! Start going, that whole discourse is ridiculous.
I feel like we still didn't see Blue versus America.
I know.
Right I was really pissed by that.
We might get it. We might get it this week.
We'll see.
Maybe.
Listen, the impact's over. Like I don't. It's
true.
Done. Like I'm tired of production. You know what? This is about to be another production rant.
Like me
I'm
and
tired
the
of
producers
production.
need to have a little bit of a talk.
I'm done because why do y'all keep cutting feeds? Like right after the ceremony, the feed's supposed to come on. Like I remember a lot of like the golden age, middle age of a Big Brother. I call it the dark age, like 15 and up. But it was a lot of fights that we would see right after the ceremonies. I remember like Caitlin Herman on top of the stair banister screaming at someone in the kitchen and all this other stuff. I remember seeing fights right when after the ceremony.
We got the didn't we get it right after with the Amira blindside?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
I remember that turning on like right after, and they were all still in like the area. Yeah, okay.
I feel like they want to like hog all the drama so they can like now you got to go watch the episode because I know the ratings are down allegedly. But like, come on, like these are feeds. These are not 24/7. Like it feels like way less than that. Like, come on now. So I'm really upset about that. I really want feeds like immediately, and I don't understand why they're trying to like hog all the feeds for themselves. Like right when anyone even talks strategy on feeds too, like they cut it to like someone talking about like food or something, and then we have to like assume what's the rest of the conversation is. Like they're hogging all the good content for themselves and then making us watch everything else, and I'm tired of it. I'm really tired of it. So
do you guys watch anything else on Paramount Plus by any chance?
No, I don't.
No,
I don't.
Yeah, I don't
so
either.
It's the only reason that I have it in case I miss a Survivor episode. And there was a dating show I used to watch, but I only got one season. So this is the only reason I'm on Paramount is for feeds. I feel finessed a little bit. I will say that. But okay. So we have this week. Unfortunately, Jag is able to play for HOH. Jag is our HOH, as we said. We got robbed of a Suri or America win because America apparently came in third. Suri could have threw it to her. Who knows? But Jag is HOH. We do have his nomination. Spoiler alert, I'm telling you right now, leave 3, 2, 1, but Jag has nominated Blue in America. And where were we expecting this? Like what's going on, guys? Like I feel like Groundhog's Day a little bit. Like am I wrong here? Like what's going on here?
No, I feel the same way. I'm like, wait, Jag's HOH, Blue is naively on the block thinking she's not the target. I guess we've replaced America. You could have honestly taken your podcast last week and just like cut out all the times you say Corey and just replace that with like America. because it's like the same story. It's like the same week.
Tough,
we just don't
man.
have Corey now. So it's like, okay, we're 1 week further. Honestly, I think America winning HOH would have been really juicy, because that's usually like a really good indication of a season, is like the number one person, their person goes out, and then that person wins the HOH. And I think that would have been really good for Cerie's game. It would have been really good for the season overall, I think, if America had done that. But yeah, we've got the same nominations, and like Blue still doesn't get it. She's still naively believing, watching the feeds today, that she barely put up a fight. Jag and Matt spent more time prepping for that conversation with Blue than Jag did actually talking to Blue about the fake plan. And her reaction was just like, I get it. I don't like it. I get it. I mean, it is what it is. And she's willing to play with, and she goes down, and I'm like, okay, what is she really thinking? Because she's going to go talk to Cirie and tell her thoughts. I believe she's telling Cirie the truth, her inner thoughts. And she's like, yeah, I feel good. I feel good. She's like, you feel good about being on the block? And she's like, I really do. And Cirie's like, oh, okay. Good to know.
Listen, Cirie has like the bars in hell for her, like for like who to work with. I feel so bad for her, because like you have Blue, who like she's kind of like really naive with like her reads, and then obviously who's left in the game at this point. Bowie Jane doesn't really want to work with her. She's more team Matt and Jag. You got Matt and Jag, who they do want to work with her, but only to a certain point, like final 5, because they don't think that she can win anything. And then you got America. And I don't know what America's like play is here at this point. Like I know she has options. She wants to work with the girls somewhat, but America is just here until like something happens. You get what I'm saying? She's looking for an opportunity. So there's not. Oh, and then you got Felicia also. Horrible reads. I saw that Felicia trying to flip the vote. What was going on there? But Cirie does not have options, and Blue, it's weird. Like she honestly always like gets out of these bad situations, and there's nothing that she's doing on purpose. Like she threw America and Corey and all of them under the bus because she truly thought that Jag didn't nominate them, and she was like, oh, it must be one of those two, so I'm going to drop all this information on you. And she accidentally got herself off the block, and kudos to that. Awesome job. But like she doesn't know that she did that. It's pure luck. And if she does survive this week, I think it's because America probably does something that pisses off Matt and Jag. I'm gonna just be real with you. Like, or if one of them won veto, then they throw Bowie up there. Like, that's also a possibility. But I don't think Blue does anything on purpose. And like, I'm gonna be real. I'm rooting for Blue. I think that she's hilarious now. Like, it took me a while to get there. I'm there now. I'm Team Blue. But like, she's not that kind of a player. Do you agree?
She kind of gives me Raven. I mean, I've said this before. She reminds me a little bit of Raven. She's a little bit not as bad as Raven. I want to make it clear. Raven is like peak delusion. You can't get evicted, go into the jury house and say I was the puppet master and be like, be for real. Like, come on. Like, Blue's not there, but it does remind me. I don't know if I've seen somebody in recent seasons like this deep in the season and be so wrong so often. And like you said, I don't know what intentionality she has in her game. She sort of just escapes it. Like she guesses Jag is going to hold on to a bar for like whatever it is, a minute and a half or whatever. And she gets the veto. Like, I don't know. I actually kind of prefer that comp, if I'm being honest, over like what we're getting.
Me too.
But like that's kind of Blue's game in a nutshell last week, and we're getting it again. And if she survives, it's probably because she gets another veto win, I'm gonna guess. But
it's cracked, man. Josie, I mean Natalie in the chat, she's expecting you to go in on Blue. Is this is that what's going on?
Yeah. Last week I was Blue's attorney, which is so funny because Corey ended up also being at the attorney law firm of Kevin Jacobs, where we both practice law. I just thought I felt like empathy for her last week because I was like, I understand the delusion of thinking that your number one ally and your number two wouldn't put you up because it's a dumb move. Like I supported her in that. I was like, you know what? It's delusional. And I said, maybe she'll win the POV, take herself off. I was her attorney, and now I'm revoking that card because what I've seen since I uttered those words last week has been ridiculous. I literally can't believe that she sat in front of Jag. Jag fully told her, I was the invisible visual age. I put you up. But now that you have veto, let me tell you what the actual plan was. Like, come on, girl. 1 + 1 = 2, and the math is not mathing. Like, I was so upset that she did not. It didn't click to her. I'm like, girl, like, he literally put your game at risk. I like it literally, like, sometimes I don't even have the words to express how, like, out of body that experience was for me to watch the game unfold with her just being okay with possibly going home. And we see again this week. If I was Blue, I'd be like, why don't you put up Bowie Jane? Fight for yourself. Fight for yourself. You're in the game. Fight for yourself. Because you're beside America. That's your saving grace. There's there's literally a POV about to happen. That's about to take place. I can't. It's like the delusions. I think the cast in general has been very delusional in different aspects at different times. But Blue, she drinks the Kool-Aid, the blue Kool-Aid constantly. And I am tired and I am sick. I want her to do well, but I need her to wake up. And it's almost is it day 80? Like, it's been 80 days. Why are you not awake now? If you can't click it to the common sense, like, on day 10, why am I expecting you to click into it at day 80? I don't know. I'm disappointed. I'm frustrated with her gameplay because she can do something that's really powerful this week. And if she does it, it's solely because of Suri. And they're not going to give Suri the credit for that at all. And that is upsetting.
Didn't Jag like tell her you were my target last week, like to her face? And his alibi is like, oh, I believed what they were selling me. They were selling me a lot of lies. And it's like, if I'm Blue and it's like 75 days on this show, it's like, Jag, what the hell is your deal? Like, you believed Corey in America over all we had, and you didn't tell. It's just, yeah, at some point she's just a little too naive for her own good, and maybe delusion. Maybe it's delusion to be, and to have it happen back to back and watching it in real time. And it just happened like 2 hours ago. It's like we're living through history.
Well, she literally said, fully expecting not to go on the block, that like, oh, whoever gets nominated next to America just has to like suck it up and just be fine. Well, it's time to suck it up. You gotta eat your own words, Blue. And
but you know what? But it's different because Jag told her it's not that. She's gonna be okay. She has the votes. It's like she's like, who would you put up though if America, worst case scenario, America wins the veto? Who do you put up? And Jag's like, and I'm like, he's clearly not. He was preparing for Blue to say like, who could you put up instead of me? But Blue didn't do that. She's more like, okay, I'm on the block. I don't win the veto. Worst case scenario. It's like, Blue, worst case scenario, if you're on the block and America wins, you're out. You were the target last week.
Yeah.
Corey's not in the house anymore to, like, you think America's, like, it's just, oh boy.
It's not looking good.
It's actually, like, mind-boggling the more I think about it, because it's like, there's no urgency. I feel like a lot of these house guests don't have urgency when it comes to playing the game. And it's like, sometimes I just wish I could, like, shake them, like, please, like, understand what's happening. And I know some people are like, well, you shouldn't put stock in Blue, like she's recruit, whatever. But it's like, you've played the game now for 80 days. 80 days. You've had to grasp the concept of the game by now. Like, it literally doesn't make any sense. We're at day 80 and there's a final 8, I think. Come on. Like, I just don't understand her reasoning at all. I also don't think it's that great of a move for Jag to get rid of Blue. But then again, pretty much everyone is his ally. So, like, it's slim pickings. But, like, oh, goodness gracious. What? Like, I can't. Bad gameplay from both of them. But
I think I agree. Do you think getting America out would be better for his game? Is that what you're thinking?
Yes.
Right. You agree as a...
I'm not necessarily sure. Like, America, no matter what, is not going to vote Jag in any situation. So me, I think if you're taking out America, that's at least one person that is always going to be a vote against you and a vote or in a possibility to nominate you. I don't think Blue necessarily nominates Matt and Jag with the intent of Jag being the target. And like I said, we're going to go back to Jag and Matt's philosophy of let's just get everyone that can win competitions out. They think that blue is a bigger comp threat. Fine. But it's actually good to have that comp threat that's not coming after you to stay in the house versus someone that is always going to be against you, you know? So I do think that America is the person that Jag needs to target. But, you know, I think Matt kind of actually won the influence battle here. And, you know, he wants blue out, and I think blue's going to go. So, you know, it's going to come down to that veto, but it's not looking too good. Listen, Jag was this close to putting Bowie up last week, so maybe Bowie could be a replacement nominee. I don't know what the hell Jag's going to do here. So, you know, it's all speculation,
I mean,
but
there was talks on the feed about Jag putting up Bowie Jane. They were like, we don't want to put up Suri. Maybe we could put up Bowie Jane. So that conversation has already taken place. I don't know how much stock it has or value currently, but I just think the right things need to be put in place, especially with Suri. If someone goes, just put her up. She's never been on the block yet. Like, just make it fair for everyone. Stuff like that, small things like that I think specific people can whisper in Jag's ear. I think Jag is very also easily influenced. So there is a possibility that happens. And then my hope would be a Bowie Jane blindside, which I never thought would be a big deal, but here we are. this is what we're
I do wonder. I'm trying to think of like, how do we get, because for me, I think the best case scenario is Bowie gets evicted this week, but she has to get on the block. And like the story that Jag is feeding Blue is that if America wins the veto, he'll put up Bowie in replacement. But if Blue wins the veto, he's saying he'll put up Felicia next to America and evict America. But if Bowie's on the block next to Blue, I do think that Bowie gets evicted. I think it's going to be one of those moves that Suri, Felicia will force with America. I think America will do it too at that point, which would be amazing. I would love that. Like the player who I think has probably the lowest win equity gets evicted. That's great. But I'm also thinking like, how do we get to that? What's the series of events that need to happen? Because like, I almost feel like right now Bowie is positioned better with relation to Matt and Jag than Suri, even though I think that Matt likes Suri on a personal level more. And maybe Suri gets to Final Four with Matt and Jag, and I just don't know if that's a good place for her to be. Yeah. I don't know. I'm just like, how does she finesse this? Because I was thinking about this when Jag won HOH, and I was like, is there a way for her to influence them based on the veto outcome to get Bowie up as a pawn? As a pawn?
I mean, I think unfortunately, the way that it happens is actually out of Suri's hands. It's more so hoping that people make certain mistakes. I think that we kind of already saw certain seeds spread with Bowie crying about, Corey telling her that Matt and Jag thought about putting her on the block. If she somehow gets ear of that again, anything can happen. I think really the person that you really need to convince isn't even Jag, it's Matt, because Matt is the one who pulled the plug last time. So if Bowie and Matt have some kind of rift, that's the way to go at it. So you need to hope that Bowie hears about this, and you can't directly tell her this because she's always going to run information back to them. Someone needs to slip up, someone needs to tell Bowie this, and then Bowie needs to go confront them, and Matt needs to get irritated enough to be like, put up Bowie.
I wonder if Suri needs to find an angle with Matt and Jag, not to take them to the final three, but to convince them that she is more valuable than Bowie, and be like, you can just pawn Bowie. She's never been up. In the event that Blue or America come down, obviously, if they don't, none of this matters. But I'm like, best case scenario, one of them does come down. Is there a way for Suri to finesse herself into a better position than Bowie with them? But I feel like she needs to somehow, she takes a very she stands back a bit and lets them sort of do their thing. Like they're like two kids just messing around. And I feel like she maybe needs to get her foot in the door more because Bowie is very proactive in making sure Bowie doesn't go up. And I don't, I can appreciate that, although she's also in a downward tailspin for some reason also, which she's her own worst enemy almost, Bowie. She'll get herself put up because they're just kind of fed up with her, I don't know, just the whole crying last week, the paranoia, totally unnecessary. That's their main issue with her right now. They're like, why was she like that? I'm like, yeah, why was she like that? Suri's like, why are you like this? And Bowie's like, why am I like this? I'm like, what is this? What is happening?
I do. And real quick, Josie, I just think that just to respond to that, and then I'm done. I think maybe Suri and Felicia need to just jump and tag team those two, because I remember in 23 when I remember X and Tiffany were about to like do a huge blindside, and then Azza and Diev went up and was like, "What's going on? Like what are we doing?" You know, like people will fold under pressure, and they allegedly want to take Suri and Felicia to the end. So like, look, corner them in a room, make them feel pressure to do it.
They need to force. These guys are kind of like, Matt is not, he's a pushover.
Yeah.
And I do believe and Jag is a little bit too. And I think if you get them in a room, the four of them, and say, we're your best bet to get to the final two.
Yeah.
Might not be the case, but you could see it. And I think there's a strong argument to be made. Bowie, I mean, it's tough because like Bowie's not that great of a player. And I think that she'll lose to either of them. So it's tough. I don't know. But I'm like, they should really, there's not that much time left. There's not that many people left. Put yourself in that position and force their hand and say, look, just put her up. It's not a big deal. You trust us. You trust me, right? I'm sorry. Like, you trust me. And then you vote her out. That's the play.
I was going to say earlier to your question about like what needs to happen for Bowie James to be on the block. I think the damage already kind of started with her crying because Matt and Jag have talked in private corners and just complained about the crying. Why was she doing that? Blah, blah, blah. And it honestly doesn't get much for Matt and Jag to get into like, I guess like a conversation talking about house guests. But I think that had a really bad impact on her. And I think that a lot of the time when people get into these like I'm going to say the half not room, because I usually see these conversations happen there, maybe because it's the most private room. But when people get into those rooms and they just start talking about people and like having these negative connotations about someone, it's like the question gets asked, why don't you just put her on the block? Why don't you just do that? And someone goes, yeah. And they just hop on this idea and this notion and they just like keep joining in. So I think she already started the damage. I think it'll be exponentially worse when someone wins POV, and that's all that really needs to happen. And I think Suri has joined these conversations where she eggs them on without participating too much. And so I think that it is very feasible, like with the situation happening, if the right words are used. I honestly would rather Felicia not be involved because sometimes she kind of puts her foot in her mouth or her foot on Suri's bed. But I just think it's more of like just egging on those conversations that they constantly have about how they don't like specific things that the house guest does. And that does the work for them because it just makes them think, why don't I put them up? So I think that's all that really needs to happen.
All right. So lastly, we talked about Jag and Matt. We talked about America and Blue, and we talked about Felicia and Bowie. What does Suri need to do from here on out? Because she has options, obviously. But Matt and Jag are always going to be a problem. I think if Jag somehow gets out, then maybe that opens a road for Matt and her to go to the end. I think her and Felicia obviously have a final two. She has options, but like I think final five is possibly even final six is going to be a really big roadblock for her. And I'm getting worried that come this time next week, we could possibly lose a Suri. It not in the double, but maybe after the double. Like we could lose Suri, and it's getting real. Like she needs to like turn something up. Like I said, production kind of screwed her over. I'm looking at y'all. But what is Suri's path to the end at this point? What do we need Suri to do in order to get into those final two chairs?
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of ways that this could break down. And I do kind of worry with the way that Matt and Jag are being talked about, that like they could actually get 4 jury votes, because I feel like if it was a bigger jury, it might actually be harder for them to win. But with only 4, I'm thinking this feels a little bit like BB14, where like Ian somehow wins. Although it's a little, Ian did win a ton of comps though, versus like the social player who, I mean, in Suri's case, she's not really hurting. She's not cutting people's throats or whatever. But I'm thinking like, if she can't get this move off, if the veto keeps Blue and America on the block, which I think is most likely going to happen tomorrow, one of them will be gone. I guess I'll just say Blue, and the double eviction has to go. Getting I think one of the 2 guys have to go for her game, for all their games. But like one of Matt or Jag needs to go. Probably Jag, definitely Jag, between Matt and Jag. Even though I think Matt has like more a chance to win the game in a final two, I think he's way more impressionable with Suri, and Suri can easily use him as like a final five, final four, maybe even final three in some ways. But it definitely like that needs to get broken up, because with Bowie in the final six, that's three. Bowie is basically a stand-in. You know, she's not a girl's girl. She is a stand-in for the guys. She's a girl's guy, or whatever you want to call it. She's a guy's girl. She is there. She's working for them, and that's not good. And I think Bowie could maybe win a comp. So I'm like, even worst case, get Bowie out. But one of Felicia, Suri, and either of, and I'm like, God, and I go back to Blue, who's like, what does Blue even want to do? Like, if she wins the veto, she's back in La La Land, and she probably, like, she did say before this podcast started to Suri, maybe we go to the 5 with Jag and Matt and then get them out, but Suri's like, well, we got to put them up as soon as possible.
Yeah,
and she's like, yeah, no, we got to put them up, and I'm like, I just hope she carries that energy if she's still here. But I ultimately do think that it's going to come down to Felicia or Suri need to win the HOH, or America or Blue. Put up Jag and Matt. If one of them comes down, put up Bowie, and just hope that, I think that's a really good spot at the final 5, getting one of them out. And then from there, it's a little bit different, but I don't know.
It just hurts to think that like the entire season could have been flipped upside down if production didn't make certain decisions. I hate harping on that, but it's just like, damn, like what could have been. Josie, do you think there's anything else that Suri could be doing to get to that point?
I think there's 2 different conversations. What needs to happen for Suri to get to the final 2 versus what Suri needs to do to win the game. I think those are 2 different things. I think her getting to the end is very easy, like in comparison to getting her to win, because based off what I've seen on the exit interviews, especially with Corey, because the conversation we've had is that Corey will probably be the force that will see Suri's gameplay and really shove it down, for lack of a better word, to the jury and be like, look at her gameplay. And some of the comments I've seen him say, again, maybe it's because of the questions that are being asked by production, but the questions don't really align, or his answers don't really align with what I thought he would do once he was like, I'm out of the game, look at Suri, et cetera, et cetera. So that makes me a little concerned. So for her to win, I think she has to win a competition, which is very slim. But I'm hoping that during the double, it's one of those like more thoughtful competitions where you have to think, or maybe a crapshoot. Jag can't play. Matt's not the strongest when it comes to trivia related questions. So then it kind of leaves Felicia, Bowie Jane, and Suri. And I would hope that Bowie Jane would be like, I don't want to win this and like throw it properly this time, so that Suri can get HOH and put up Jag and Matt. And from there, I think she has a better path to actually win, because then they're going to be like, oh, she did the move this season. But in terms of like her getting to the path, like getting to the final 2, she kind of just needs to play the middle and kind of just be like, with Jag and Matt, if that's what that path leads to, just be like, well, Bowie Jane, she's won a competition. I haven't. She hasn't been on the plot. I have. So she clearly is better technically, and she might likely get the votes if the jury is not bitter. If she has that discourse with them, I think they're likely to bring her to final 2. I think with the other house guests, she's also favorable to be in that top 3 position. I don't think anyone wants to take a shot at Suri. So getting to that final 2 chair, I don't think is difficult. It's her winning, and we see the resume. We see that she's playing the game. But I think the season is so, like, the people in the jury talking about, like, the game being so comp heavy this season is playing a big factor. And I think Cameron and potentially Corey's decisions. So I'm hopeful, because in Suri we trust. But it's looking a little bleak.
I feel like she needs to go to the end with one of these ladies, because I feel like with what Corey's saying, I was also reading his exit interviews, and he's like, I would probably vote for Matt or Jag in the final 2. I think, and he didn't really talk about Suri all that much. Cameron, I think, is the same way. And I think if you're not sitting next to Bowie Jane, what do you think Bowie Jane's voting for? And in a 4-person, you need only 4 votes. That's probably 3 right there that you're probably not getting, and you need everyone else. So I'm like, I think her best chance of winning is sitting next to Bowie, sitting next to America, sitting next to Blue. And I don't think that they would. I think she would win. I think she could easily beat them. I think she's Suri. She can talk. She's social. She's likable. People really like her. I almost fear more like, would she get, what's the final 3? And does she get taken if she doesn't win? Are we looking at another 3rd place finish? Because is America hypothetically going to take her to the final 2? Like, if she's with Matt and Jag, I don't feel good. If they're taking her to the final 2, I also still don't feel good if they happen to. Maybe she wins, but then again, like, final 3 HOHs, the part 1, part 2 are much more physical. Part 3 is purely trivia, and like she could win that, but part 1 and part 2 are physical, especially part 1, which is like usually this endurance kind of comp. Part 2 is like solving puzzles, but they do like climbing rocks, like a rock wall, or running back and forth, or whatever, or like rappelling off stuff. And it's like, Suri's not interested in that. So I guess it depends on who she's with, but I do think for her sake, like, this was a very bad outcome this week with Jag winning. I don't know. She needs to get Bowie on her side. I don't know what to
like on some harsh reality stuff. Matt and Jag right now are like, I think they might beat her, which is unfortunate. I think Bowie has been singing to the heavens how she does not want Serena's game, so I don't see Bowie taking her to the end. Blue, despite her and Suri working right now, she's voiced many times when Jared was in the game that Suri needs to be taken out, and I can see her taking a Felicia to the end over Suri. And then America, I can actually say the same thing. Like, I think Felicia is the only person who would even consider taking Suri to the end, and Matt might consider it, if Jag's out the game. But even if she does get to the end, this is the scary part. I think that the fandom is really reliant on like her being like the survivor legend, the traders winner. I'm starting to think, especially after hearing the Corey thing, they don't give a damn about any of that. So they care about resumes and what's going on in this season. And every single person left in the game outside of Suri hasn't won something and hasn't really like pulled off like this grandiose big move in everyone else's eyes. To us, we've
America
seen that.
hasn't, right? America hasn't done anything.
No.
Oh
America
yeah, she hasn't. Sorry, but America's had the blow up. She's been a part of the big group. She's in the showmans. Maybe I think America has more friends on the jury in comparison to Suri. Hopefully, I'm wrong.
I know this is the annoying thing with like Cameron and Corey. I'm like, those are 2 America votes.
Yeah,
which is so frustrating because I'm like, Suri's definitely played a better game than America. I don't think that's a hot take, but knowing that those are 2 votes, if it's like America versus Suri hypothetically, and like that's 2 jury, it does remind me of like Dan and Ian a little bit.
It does, and she needs an HOH, and she needs to take out someone, and then she can get sit in those final 2 chairs and finally be like, I did this, and everyone can be like, okay, like, yeah, she did do that, so these other claims are probably valid. You got to remember, a lot of people also think that Suri's a liar. So if she goes in the final 2 and says all these things that she's done, specifically early game, they're going to be like, no, you didn't. Like, we're not giving you that credit. You were an HOH. This cast is delusional in the game, so it also doesn't shock me if they're delusional in the jury house. I'm just keeping it real. But I don't know. It's not looking too good for our girl. Hopefully things do turn around for her. But what are you gonna do?
I think upside is that one, Suri has really good relationships with everyone. I know there was like some discourse about she just lost Corey's vote with that goodbye message. I really don't think she did. That's Corey's sense of humor. If you think about it, like he was smiling the entire time. I don't think Corey's gonna be bitter by that comment. I think people are like exaggerating and being like, well, she lost a jury. No, it's Corey. Let's be serious. Let's be fucking for real. Like, we've seen this season. You're gonna tell me that comment made Corey go, she's not getting my jury vote. No. Like, come on now. Like, let's use our common sense. But I think Suri's upside is that she is so eloquent when she speaks, and she's just so charismatic. And like people just latch on to her. And I think we've seen that with Survivor. We've seen it this season. It doesn't take much. So I think she has these really good relationships individually with the house guests where I mean, there's a lot of days to be left, to be played. 20 days. But I think she has these relationships in this base covered that not every single person has with the members that are going to be on the jury if she makes it to final two. And I think she can leverage that, especially if people in the jury house want to root for her. If people want to root for you, they're going to find really anything they can grasp on and to defend you. I know that, the house guests go into the jury house and they want the game to be over, but talking to some of like previous house guests and stuff, the game never really ends even when you're in jury, because people are trying to convince you to see their side or vote for the person they want to win. And so I think if Cirie leaves these good marks and people can't be bitter towards her, and then she tells her convincing story like I know she can, and just speaks and answer the questions the way I know she can, I think she does have a good chance, even if she may not have the resume per se. But I think people who appreciate the game, I mean, Cameron was calling himself Dan and Ian with Corey day 3, I think. I made a tweet about it, I think. So if these people love the game, they should be able to hear her pleas and resonate and go, maybe I didn't think of that, and really take that into consideration. Will it be fully convincing? I don't know. There's so many variables to come into play, but I do still have hope.
That's funny. Cam is like the closest thing I've ever seen to Frank in Big Brother. Like the dude he's just Frank 2.0. It's so funny. He's not Dan. Oh man, that's wild.
And then the last thing, and we can start closing out after this, that I completely forgot about. What if she drops the secret that Jared was her son? Maybe does that hurt her game?
I thought that, but I'm like, what is she gonna get out of that? Like, if anything, they're just gonna look at her and go, what? I feel like that might pull a little bit of like, it might wake them up a little bit to like, and not in a good way. I'm not sure what.
Maybe she was sneaky. Maybe they were like, oh my God, she's such a secret keeper. I don't know. Like, I'm just grasping at straws at this point.
I mean, maybe like a bombshell in the final two if you're like talking to the jury, maybe. I don't know.
But Derek was a cop and he didn't tell them that in his final jury suite, so maybe she shouldn't. Like maybe it's maybe they'll be like, oh, so you had a handicap? Get the hell out of here.
I mean, maybe
not. Yeah.
I think it'll have the reaction Red had, where like after the show he was just like, so Bree just pretty much was helped by production, blah blah blah.
Got it.
I think that's the effect that will take place rather than the latter. And Jared also, like, no offense to him, not a great player either. So I don't know what that really does for her. Maybe
she could argue, I had my son and I had to drag him to like 11th place. Do you realize how hard that is? Like,
I don't know. They might be like, well, that's why she had control in the beginning of the game, even if they do credit her for that. I don't know. I just feel like there's too many cons or risk. It's not worth it.
Right. But okay. With that being said, that's the end of the stream. W-stream, round of applause. But thank you, everybody, for watching. Before we do our plugs, as usual, if you haven't already, please check out the Silent Podcast social media pages. And if you're listening on our audio platforms, please hit that 5 stars. Only if you like what you hear. If you don't rate it at all. Just wait till you hear something that you do like. And like, comment, and subscribe. We love the comments. It helps us with the algorithm and all that fun stuff. Speaking of Corey interviews, our Corey interview will go up later tonight. Like I said, Josie said, our interview. The way they handed jury is a lot different from post jury, but or pre jury. But anyway, Peridiam, thank you so much for coming. This was a great podcast as usual. What you got going on, and where can people find you?
People can find me on YouTube, youtube.com/Peridiam, Peridiam. That's it. I post Big Brother videos every Thursday, and I'm currently posting Survivor videos every Wednesday. So I'll be doing that until this season wraps up. And then we've got Survivor 45, and that'll be going until the end of the year. So every week on YouTube, if you want to hear me talk about some random topic, that's where I'm at. I actually compiled all the stats before this podcast, but I was like, it's kind of irrelevant. But about I noticed that there are no dissenting votes this season, like people who vote against the majority. And I was like, I wonder how out of left, how egregious is BB25 in comparison to all the other seasons. So I spent about an hour and I gathered all the stats, and I'm like, I'll use this for a future video. Originally I was like, I'll just look at BB25, and I'm like, you know what, I could make a video about this in the future and tie it into something. Do you guys have any idea how BB25 is faring compared to any of the other seasons as far as like rogue votes or people voting against the
man.
majority?
No idea. I'd have to look into that.
Well, so far there have been 4 votes against the majority so far.
Oh,
But
Interesting.
any idea how many? How do you think that stacks up? Like, do you think it's at the bottom and the middle?
How many rogue votes were there? And unfortunately, New School Big Brother does not go against the grain as much. So
That's true.
it's probably somewhere in like the golden or like old school era. I have to look at it.
Okay.
I think that the rogue votes itself as like a title is one thing versus sympathy votes. I think we see a lot, still somewhat some sympathy votes here and there, not as much. But I think the rogue vote like used to happen like by the randomest people. It's like in this middle, and like they thought they were doing something, and it usually backfired on them. I can't remember what season it was. But someone threw a road vote and everyone knew who it was. And they were trying to play it like it wasn't them. I can't remember what season it is. It was a US one for sure. And it's just like, it like pretty much serves no purpose because people aren't trying to step outside of the game. So I don't think it happens as much as like it used to be, or a sympathy vote in that comparison, unless you're putting both of them together, but they're not technically the same thing. So
BB25 dissenting votes, people who didn't vote for the person who went home, is currently ranked out of 24 seasons 24th.
Wow.
And given there's only, I believe, 7 or 9 more votes, it would have to require 2 more votes not going in the direction of the vote of the person getting voted out to possibly be less than last place. And it's up there with Big Brother 12 and Big Brother 16.
Yeah, that tracks.
That tracks 16. Yeah, for sure.
So, and the number one most is Big Brother 11. Big Brother 11 is like 30% of the time. So yeah, hot mess, you know, and BB20. BB20 is a lot of them too.
I was just about to say, I remember the level 6 was doing that a lot with Dante was also really bad at it, but
anyway, that's what you can hear me talk about.
All right, we gotta get you on the Survivor podcast with me, Gia, and Kettles at some point because Lulu.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I'd love to.
But we'll definitely hit you. But thanks so much, Peridiam. Josie, what's up with you?
Well, the challenge is officially over. So me and Katie are supposed to recap the season as a whole. We'll have a lot to talk about, so I'm excited for that. Other than that, I'm doing Big Brother coverage and potential coverage for something else, but I don't know if we're allowed to discuss that yet. But other than that, you guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram, where I just tweet and talk about reality TV as a whole, namely competition reality TV, but all under the sun. And also I'm working on a special project. I've kind of been teasing it a bit here and there. So keep an eye out for that. I'm really excited about it. So yeah, that's everything for me.
All right. And like usual, you can find me at 8Ball Bangers on all social platforms. Back here every week, obviously, talking Big Brother. Like I said, the Corey interview will be uploaded after this. I have a fun little event coming on Monday, BB Blackout. I'm not going to announce who on it, but a whole lot of YouTubers, podcasters, and all fun stuff. Got a pretty stacked lineup. I'm really excited for that. So Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern, there's going to be like 10 people in there. So to talk about Big Brother. So make sure you check that out. You don't want to miss it. And Love is Blurry. Finally, I'm done. I don't have to talk about it anymore. I'm tired of Love is Blind. One more bad season. I'm not talking about it anymore. But you can check that me and Javier's final pod on that. And lastly, me and Sasha start covering House of Villains on Sunday. Yeah, so that's going to be pretty fun. 2 messy people talking about a messy ass show. So it's going to be great. But until next week, hopefully Bowie Jane is out of here. Have a good one. Bye.